The ABPTS application is the first step in pursuing your oncology specialty certification exam. But most people feel really afraid of the big behemoth of the application that they need to fill out. In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the basics of completing your application, what you need, how to navigate the portal, as well as how to save yourself time in the process. My name is Elise. I'm a board-certified oncologic clinical specialist, and I did this exact same process just a few years ago when I sat for my oncology specialty certification. So first up, you'll need to navigate to the ABPTS application website, and you can do this a few different ways, either through the APTA, which is the American Physical Therapy Association website, or you can go directly to ABPTS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the APTA website here. So this is the home page of the APTA specialty certification exam process governed by ABPTS. None of this is an ad. None of this is paid promotion. This is just what I think you need to know if you are going to be considering sitting for the specialty certification exam at any point. So this is the homepage here. And one of the things I will let you know about this particular website, it is incredibly circular, meaning that there are a lot of links that go to the same place or different web pages that have the same information or very similar information, and it's easy to get down a rabbit hole of confusion on this website. So here's my process that I would recommend to save yourself the frustration and the stress and the overwhelm that can come with perusing this website. So first and foremost, I would go right to Become a Specialist. And this is going to take you to a very general page of who are specialists, what is the process, etc. This certified specialization primer is like 50% helpful. I think you should look at it just to know like what it is. So I'll take you to this process here. And it's basically just a very, very broad overview of all the things you may want to know if you're considering taking your specialty certification exam. Again, I would review it just to know what's going on here, but I would not actually click all of the links because what I think you need to know is actually under this second block here. So the process, review the steps. Now, when you get in here, again, this is very broad. This is very general, and a lot of this is kind of vague. I do think it's helpful. Number 2 right here. So if you're going to pursue your specialty certification in oncology, there's one of 2 ways that you can do it. You can either complete a accredited, recognized oncology residency, or you can submit proof that you have practiced 2,000 hours in your specialty area. So for us, we're talking about oncology. That's what I did. I did not do a residency. I practiced for a few years and then I actually went and took this exam. So I think these links here are helpful because they talk through like what are the different hours that are accepted. It's not all patient care, so that is really helpful. What hours are accepted, what hours are not accepted, and ultimately, what do you need to know about those hours so that you can track them appropriately and then include them in your application, which we'll get to shortly. Now, again, this is just kind of general, like here's how the process works, etc., etc. But I'm actually going to take you back because the dates and deadlines are what most people are really concerned about. Now, if you are watching this in real time, as in June or summer of 2023, ABPTS just announced that they are now doing 2 application deadlines. The first is the early bird application deadline, and that for oncology is July 1st. Now, if you choose to not do that, or you miss that, but you still want to sit for the 2024 exam cycle, you have until September 30th, which is the final application deadline to get your application in, which is pretty great. Now, with the early bird application, you do save $100. It's kind of a toss-up as to like how important that is. $100 isn't nothing, don't get me wrong, but if you need the extra time to make sure that your application and case report are really, really solid, I would encourage you just shoot for that September 30th deadline so you're not rushing and cramming your application and case report. The last thing we want is for you to have a crappy application and case report that ultimately is rejected, and then you have to do it over to try and meet that next deadline. Let's just not worry about that. Have a really great application and case report the first time, and then we won't have to worry about that. So as you can see here, there are 2 columns here. These are separated by the specific specialties. Again, we are focusing on oncology. I'm only talking about the left side over here. And there is some more information as far as when you're going to, once you've been accepted to sit for the exam, when you'll get the information on how to schedule your exam, when the exam is taking place, and then ultimately when you'll get the results of your exam. So this is all under the dates and deadlines place over here. I would then scroll down. So I'm back to our kind of general page on Become a Specialist. And I'm going to navigate over to our oncology section. Now, this has a little more information that is specific to oncology as far as kind of descriptors here, but a lot of the information is going to be the same. The fees and deadlines, guess what? We already looked at that. The new requirements are where I would then recommend you go to. We already talked about this. This is our applicants must meet either the residency, they've completed the residency that is accredited, recognized, or submit the 2,000 hours here. Now, in oncology, this is something you have to pay attention to because not every section will do this. You will have to submit a case report as part of your application. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but this is what these general extra requirements are. Now, there are other specialties that have to do this. I think women's health for sure, and then a couple others. But again, pay attention to the oncology section because that's where we're really concerned about in this tutorial. Okay, so we are back to the oncology specific area within the ABPTS website. I'm going to scroll past the application requirements and the fees and deadlines, and this is what I'm concerned about here, the candidate guide. This is a really, really helpful general document that will take you through what do you need to understand about the examination process, what is specialty certification exam, like why do we have it, although I'm not a super excited about that. But then it also has information that is specific to your particular content area that you're wanting to test in, right? Again, we're going to focus on oncology. This candidate guide is free. Okay, it is free to download, and I would really, really encourage you to do so. So they have this convenient reader here. You can just hit download. Do not be scared by the 172 pages that you see here. Not all of those are pertinent to you. The first few pages are really just what is some general information. It's only like 20 pages, which is not a big deal at all. And then we get into the specific addendums for the different content areas. Again, oncology. Oncology has some good information as far as like what are the potential topics that are covered on the exam, are likely to be covered on the exam, and that's both oncology diagnoses but also impairments patients can experience. Plus, there's some sample test questions and a previously accepted submitted case report that they have now shown for your benefit, which I think is really great. So this is not a resource to sleep on. Again, I think it's very, very helpful. It also gives some really good, helpful, very general information about the case report requirement. And again, having that sample of here is a previously submitted and accepted case report can be really helpful for when you're trying to wrap your head around how do I write a case report and make it really, really good so it's ultimately accepted on the first try. At this point in the video, you're probably wondering how to even start writing your case report. That's why I want you to go to the link in my description box for my free checklist, 5 things you need to write your case report. In this checklist, I'll take you through the basics of how to write a case report, as well as what are some tips and strategies you need along the way to save yourself time, stress, and frustration. Again, you can grab that at the link in my description box below. Now, I have now gone backwards a page, and we're back on the oncology general information page, the Ready, Set, Go. Under this set headline here, they're talking about the description of specialty practice, or the DSP. Now, the DSP is going to outline more of the content that is covered on the exam, is likely to be covered on the exam, as well as the breakdown in the questions. What percentage of questions are going to be about diagnosis? What percentage of questions are going to be about evaluation? What percentage of questions are going to be about the actual interventions, for example? When you apply to sit for the exam, you get a free DSP. Do not purchase this. A lot of the information on the DSP is actually already covered in the oncology addendum within the candidate guide. And maybe there's a little extra here. Do not purchase it though. Okay? Don't purchase it. It's not worth it. It's not going to save you any time or heartache or stress in the long run. And then you're out like, I think it's like $50. Don't spend your $50 here, right? You have other things you can spend $50 on. So once you're ready to log into the applicant portal, you're going to see a page that looks like this. And this will prompt you to log into your APTA member account. Now, if you are not an APTA member, that doesn't mean that you cannot take the specialty certification exam. What you will need to do, though, is you do have to create an APTA account. That doesn't mean you're a member. It just means that you have an account with APTA. An account with APTA is free. Membership is what you actually pay for. Now, as you maybe heard me talk previously, there are significant cost savings if you are an APTA member taking the ABPTS specialty certification exams, but that is not a requirement. That is totally up to you. So if you're an APTA member, you will input your information here and then click log in. Or if you haven't, you'll click this link here that says create a free account, which is exactly what I did for the purposes of this tutorial video. Put in your information and then you're good to go. Regardless of if you already have an APTA account, if you don't already have an APTA account, once you have your APTA login information, you'll then put that in and then click login. So now that you're logged into the application portal, this is what it's going to look like. So there's a little information up here for you as far as this is what you need to know. Again, just kind of general information here. You can access the application and the candidate guide. That is that resource that we discussed previously. And I will let you know here, this is really helpful. Please allow for 8 weeks for your application to be reviewed. Do not expect that this is an overnight situation. And they do say on their website that the earlier you submit, the earlier you are going to receive your feedback on whether you are accepted or not, because they do grade them in the order that they come in. At the very top here, you're going to see that there is an application system assessment survey. I wouldn't worry about this. This is probably once you have completed your application, come back and fill this out. It lets us know how the application process is doing. That is my own conjecture. I don't know that for certain, but that is what I would anticipate. Now, when you scroll below that survey, you are going to see that there is every single application for every single specialty area in here. You are going to scroll down and select the corresponding content area that you are going to test for, right? And in this case, we are going to select oncology here. Again, early bird deadline July 1st, final application deadline September 30th. Here's all the information you need, but we're going to actually jump in and say begin. Now, interestingly, I'm not really sure why, but you have to select begin and then you have to begin again. Not sure what that's about, but just be aware that that is a thing and that is something that I came across too. It is not an error as far as I can tell. So once you have selected begin, continue, and then we're actually going to get started. This is what the application for oncology looks like. And there's a couple different portions of this. You have to choose your application path because remember, you either have to do an oncology residency or you have to submit proof of these direct patient care hours. So I'm going to say select path because I have to do that before I can actually work on the rest of my application. Have I completed a residency? No, I have not. I will not complete a residency. So I'm going to say no. And then this means that I don't have to submit any kind of residency proof. Again, I will then submit proof of the hours I have worked in oncology. So I'm going to continue. And now it's time to actually start working on the application part. This first part here is just a counter. This is not something that you will actually click on and do work in. All of that is going to come here in this PT experience area. So once you start entering your information in the application, this is what it's going to look like when you're actually entering the patient care hours that you have accrued over the last several years of your practice. Now, I actually had only worked at one institution to accumulate all the hours that I needed. So my process was pretty straightforward. However, there is an ability to include more positions within this application. So how this works is you put the facility name, your title held here, and then all of the contact information and geographic location information for this location. You will have to put a description of your duties as well as when you started, when you finished. For me, I was currently working at that institution, and so I just put like July 1st as my completion date, because again, I was still working at that job. I hadn't finished working at that job at that time. When you're putting in your hours, you do have to be truthful. Like, I hope that goes without saying, because ABPTS could totally come back and check on all of that, but they also are going to send confirmation to your supervisor at this particular facility to say, yep, that is correct. Yes, I attest that this is correct, etc. Now, there is an option for self-attestation if you are like a self-employed, but for most of us, we are then going to send this to our supervisor. And then it would automatically be sent to their information here. So as part of entering your direct patient care hours, there are 3 different tabs that you'll have to put in. So the actual facility that you worked at, what are the specific patient hours that you worked, like how many patient care hours did you work at this particular facility? So, and this breaks down to weeks worked, number of weeks, hours worked per week, because it's going to do a little calculation for you so you don't have to like sit there with a calculator yourself. You do have to designate what percentage of clinical practice, what percentage of direct care, what are the most common disorders that you saw, and there is a drop-down menu. I believe you can select multiple, at least from when I did this previously. And then once you've done this, now is when you're actually going to insert your supervisor information. So again, are you self-attestation for this? Or do you have a supervisor that you're going to be working with here and sending that information to? You have to complete all of this information before you can actually submit it to your supervisor. I do believe that if you click finish later, it will save your answers. But what I would recommend instead is actually this. Go into the application, review the requirements, review the information that you have to submit, make a list, like jot it down, and then compile all of that information and come back later to complete your application in one sitting. It makes it a lot easier because then you're not jumping around and potentially skipping areas that you may inadvertently leave out. You can make sure that you have all of the information correct and then just plug and chug as you're going. It's going to make things a lot easier, and you're going to be a lot less likely to accidentally leave stuff out, which I would hate for that to happen. So you will do this PT experience step as many times as you need to. And then once you're done with that, here's where you're going to insert your case report. Now, as you can see in the case report section, this is the oncology case study here. There are different sections. As you go through each of these sections, you are then going to see when you submitted this information and then any next steps that are necessary. When you're ready to actually submit your case study or portions of your case study, you'll hit complete entry, and then you will take the information from your case report and copy and paste it into this corresponding text box here. Now, you do have the opportunity that you can finish later, and that will save your information without officially submitting it. I would really encourage you, as you're going through this, as you're plugging your information into this case study area, unless you are completely done, you have checked everything, you've checked it once, you've checked it twice, maybe even had a friend review this, I would hit finish later, because I don't know that you can go back in once you've hit submit. You may be able to. I would just be super cautious with this, and I would hate for you to make any silly mistakes that potentially affect the quality of your case report. So until you're about to like submit everything completely fully done, I would hit finish later, and then you can always come back and edit if there's any last minute updates that you need to do. Now, as you can see, with each of this is relying on the fact that you have already completed your case study. By the time you get to this section of your application, you need to have your case report completely done. You don't have to have your case report done to fill in the PT experience here, but you definitely do when you are copying and pasting your case report into the oncology case study area. As you can see, there are different areas here, and there is a little bit of information assigned to each of these boxes. Now, within the candidate guide, all of this is listed on like one concise page, so you can see all the information here, but this is a nice review of what was already talked about in the candidate guide, so you can make sure that this particular section of your case report that you're copying and pasting actually matches what is listed here in the various instructions. Once you have completed all of this, so you have submitted your PT experience, you have designated the path that you are doing for your application, you have copied and pasted your case report into these sections, and then again, once you've done this, you are hitting submit. Submit here. This is, we are completely done. You're going to do this for each of these entries here. Only then are you going to hit continue application, and this is where you will finally submit, you will pay the fee, and then we wait. While we've talked about the application process, what you need to actually fill out your application, you may be wondering, how can I make my case report stand out so that I can get accepted on the first try? That's why I want you to watch this next video that's going to take you through everything you need to write an amazing case report on the first try. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.